So welcome everyone here to Unit Masters session. As you might know already, you've heard like Unit has different kind of growth vehicles. So we're a layer 1 blockchain, and then in order to grow our ecosystem, to have users that actually interact and engage and use the system, we have different that a community of users who are token aware, blockchain literate, and use the new technology to advance what we call the Web3 or Internet of Value. And you've heard about the Unit Ventures program already. Thank you very much, Madhuri, for explaining to us what we're going to launch next year, where we already have a feasible cohort, very interesting outlook. And now we're speaking about another of our 5 growth ventures, and this is Unit Masters. So Unit Masters was introduced last year. We've run 7 cohorts right now already. It's a 6 weeks program where within 6 weeks, you go through the basics of how does blockchain technology work, and then you understand basically what are the main principles, such as the blockchain trilemma, scalability trilemma. Or you go into, hey, how does consensus mechanism work? What is actually a way in which we as a community or people participants in an ecosystem that does not have a central entity, truth, right? This is a different way of thinking. It's built on game theory, mathematical models, and cryptography. And then basically we go in week 3, typically we speak about different projects. What is decentralized finance? You read it in the news all the time. What is actually NFTs? What are metaverses? And so on. And then we go beyond technology. We look at the broader implications of this technology. That's when we speak about stakeholder economy. Yeah, what is the world? Or what is actually needed for a world in which people who contribute to creating value can become owners of this value created? So how do we move actually from a world in which shareholders rule the world to a world where stakeholders rule the world, or actually in a world where everybody collaborates together? This is typically topics in 5 of our 6 weeks program. And then in week 6, we speak about the token economy, one application basically that shows how can we think tokens, how can we actually create solid business cases using the token economy in the session a few hours earlier. So welcome everyone to Unit Masters Cohort 7 graduation ceremony. So Unit a Masters has 6 cohorts per year. And right now we're in the end week of 7 programs. So you can join anytime our next cohort team. So it's free. So you can already sign up for the Unit Masters. You go on our website called unitmasters.org. And today, the purpose of the session is to meet our current graduates, our current participants. They're not yet graduates because they actually presenting their projects as a case study, and obviously to get a certificate of completion going for participants. For the past cohort 7, we had 800 people who signed up, and we have live sessions every week. So over the years, we've trained several thousands of people for basic blockchain literacy. So you are all very welcome to join, because in our view at Unit, we think it's very, very important that one understands what are the base mechanisms and not only applies it, right? Because we're so early in the industry that anybody who joins now and participates, creates the future, actually has a very strong say on the development of the future industry and the future that is as relevant as the internet. You may think, wow, blockchain, I don't know, it's not so important, but this was actually what people thought in 1995, when people like Bill Gates and so on tried to explain to the world what is the internet. And they tried to explain the relevance of having online streaming, or they tried to explain the relevance of having email communication. And people were just, why do we need that? We already have existing technology every day now in our field. But then when people have understood it and did a little bit of research in a structured way, this is why we have Unit Masters, for example, they understand the power behind that new evolution, the internet revolution. So let's get started today. I don't want to take too much time because we have 3 wonderful projects from 3 current graduates who will take us through their final cohort 7 presentations.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Ignacio Puga, co-founder and CEO of Endangered Tokens, Preserve to Earn, and ReFi ecosystem. Our journey begins with an identified problem. Endangered species have become liabilities to their ecosystems' landowners, and they don't generate significant revenue. Our proposed solution is to return the values through tokenization and conservation of living endangered tree specimens to generate incentives to promote its ecosystem survival, giving value back to stakeholders through crypto assets backed by the natural scarcity of the species, art, tourism, education, local sustainable development, and carbon credits. Our ecosystem value flow, we designed the value flow for this solution ecosystem actors. Alongside with NGOs, artists, we tokenize the trees and generate valuable art assets. Investors then can purchase our assets in order for us to invest the resources in conservation through collaboration with landowners, NGOs, and local tourism. We finance reforestation that will enhance the protection of endangered ecosystems and bring back value to investors through carbon credits. We engage with the community to generate local economy that can also bring back value to the investors. Our first products will be these NFTs with purpose. We have created different NFT types that we called the tokens. The most scarce and valuable will be the tokenized endangered trees that you can see to your left, in which the owner will become the godparent of that single tree within our ecosystem. Today we launched the first, well, not yet, but we're almost to launch the first 10 available Elder Ent from Keule tree specimens tokens that you will be able to check out soon on our OpenSea account. The pixel art and the avatar are still in development and will be available soon for minting. Our community currency, we are creating 2 community currencies, ENTS for governance and rewards sharing, and Roots for rewards giving and utility within the Preserve to Earn ecosystem. We might launch this within Unit Launchpad batch 2 if everything goes well. Our income distribution will be directed to our conservation program, liquidity, team and development, ecosystem investment, the DAO treasury, staking rewards, and community growth. The IDO of ENTS will be announced soon, and we want to raise around $700,000 with an initial price of $0.375 per token. Our release to market rate, we want to do it in a time frame of 10 years, so the inflation rate is not too much for the ENTS token. The ecosystem tokens flow and utility will be the investors can invest in our tokens, NFTs, or on ENTS governance profits. Through staking, they can earn roots that then they can use to buy token improvement to better protection of the trees. They can buy a touristic marketplace where they can visit the trees in real life. They can plant trees to access to carbon credits, or they can buy products of alliances, local products, or different services. Our ENTS conservation program that will be most of the income directed, it's mostly will finance 6 principal points: tokenization and extensive cadastre and landowner agreements, in situ conservation to reduce threats, ex situ conservation actions to foster reproduction, and sustainable local development and community engagement, research on species and their habitats, and carbon bonds verification and holding. We have already a dream team working with us. We're already 9 people that are engaged. We're all working for only tokens right now, but we have designers, developers, content creators, and well, my co-founder Nicolas, he's a conservation expert that has been working with Keules and its conservation for about 2 or 3 years. So you can join already our community. You can follow us on Twitter and ENTS Foundation, or you can there you can check where our Discord channel is. We are now in the stage of forming a bigger community, and you can also contribute to us on our GitCon grant. This is the link. I can give it to you in the chat, or also donate to our project on our Give Us cause. You can visit us on endangeredtokens.org, and please support us in ENTS Foundation, biodiversity assets for the future. Any questions? let me check.
Run important topic. Maybe can you recap for us? Yeah, in one sentence. Yeah, do you hear me?
One sentence for the project?
Exactly. No. Let me guide you through that. So what is the problem your project is solving at the moment? What's the main problem that you're contributing to, I would say?
Well, we are actually working now with the Keule tree specimens. This tree is an endangered tree that is the last one of its family, and it's only 4,000 specimens alive. So we are trying to tokenize these trees, each one, so we can finance the cadastre, the extensive cadastre we have to make to identify each of the trees. And as it's scarce, like for the nature of the endangered species scarce, we believe this can be much more valuable than Bitcoin. It's scarcer than Bitcoin. So, the problem solving is that landowners don't have an incentive to take care of the trees because their land has to be like government protected because of the endangered trees. So they actually hide the trees and cut them before the government find them. So the incentives are not like really focused on actually preserving them. There is no incentive to buy land with a Keule. There's no incentive to buy land with a Keule ecosystem because then you can't produce anything. You can't have revenue. So we want to create the ecosystem environment through tokenization. So landowners will look for us and they will say to us, we have Keules, we want to be paid for it, and we will pay them for the Keules because we're tokenizing them.
So basically you create revenue opportunities for people who contribute to preservation of an endangered species, right? And now what kind of revenue generation models does this entail? In which way does your project align incentives between the different stakeholders and make sure basically that people behave in the way that is beneficial for the ecosystem?
Right. We will work alongside NGOs. Those are the ones that will, we will ensure that NGOs will do the conservation program that we have. So this is the ecosystem and the actors. Landowners are one of the main actors because they are the ones owning the trees. But then you have the investors that will want something in return. Because of the investment, we are not looking for donations, we are looking for investors. And then through NGOs, we collaborate, do local tourism alongside these trees, and we do reforestation. And in that way, we can return value to the investors through these like tangible assets in the real world. And in the last stage of our project, we would like to integrate it with the metaverse, so you can generate. As a token holder, you will be a partner with us in generating digital assets that will stand for this tree in the metaverse. So you will be able to see in virtual reality this endangered tree and will live in the blockchain forever. I don't know if I answered your question. It was a lot of information.
Okay, thank you. And now, how do this is very stakeholders, or the stakeholder economy. We have to understand who are the stakeholders, right? We have the landowners, then we have the NGOs, and we have the investors, and all of them have a different interest. What is the image or the revenue stream of the NGOs? What do they provide? What kind of services to the ecosystem, and how would they receive funding to create value for the ecosystem?
Yes, well, they will be generating content about the actions they are doing, because they will, for example, do a fire cut for the trees so they can be protected from fires. So that action had to be noted in a blog or something. But as NGOs are like a reliable entity within a government or within an environment, a conservation environment, that will they will make sure that the money is being well spent in the conservation actions that we are also will be trying to verify. We are thinking about, there will be two types of NGOs, an NGO that will do the job of conservation, and an NGO that will ensure that all the other NGOs are actually doing the job. That's like that's the idea, at least. We're already working with two NGOs. Yesterday we have a meeting with them. We had a meeting with them, but yeah, we still.
So basically, Yeah, this is very important and it's wonderful that you lay it out, right? We're not creating value out of nothing, but there are actors in the ecosystem that are already generating services that do need to be paid for and that have basically a value to the ecosystem that can be captured in different ways. And with the token economy, try to capture different value flows using technology, using a different way of incentive alignment. So thank you very much, Ignacio, for laying this out. I know it's super tricky to lay out an entire ecosystem in only 3-4 minutes. You did very, very well. We have two more presentations. So I just want to invite Ivy now to share her idea. It's in early concept stage. So whereas Ignacio has a project that already has a team and a community and you all can join, we have Ivy who basically.
Yeah, so just like Yip said, I began Unit Masters with basically very little knowledge on Web3, but over the last 2 weeks, myself and my husband, who's a blockchain engineer, luckily, and one of our mutual friends decided to start working on a project together. And it's Web3 analytics tool that borrows user data. Something that I learned over the last few weeks and trends that I saw in the Web3 space, just as a beginner, is that Web3 companies are starting to build more complex user interfaces as they focus more on user experience. And so focusing on layer 3 will be a common trend moving into 2022. And some downsides of that is we've been talking to a few Web3 companies and they're saying that the tools that they're using for product and data business analytics are not necessarily aligned with Web3 values in terms of data ownership for the user. And also, as Yip said at the beginning of, Web3 is all about everyone winning. Customers deserve to be rewarded for what they're contributing to the business. And a lot of it is the data aspect, and that has not happened yet. The second trend that we're seeing is that users do not have full portability of data or ownership, transparency, and opportunity to control this data as promised, or at least it's not such a great user experience that users can actually go in and keep track of it all. And then lastly, although on-chain transactions live on the blockchain, is quite transparent, its front-end data does not. And big tech in the digital silos really succeeded with both. And as long as both are not kind of connected for the business and for the customers, then we're still quite digitally siloed. So our MVP that we're building right now, actually our end goal is really a data layer for the entire web that customers can opt into lending their data for token rewards. MVP is just a mixed panel amplitude kind of solution for product analytics, where the only data that we're tracking is fully on app. So not as much demographic data. I know that ruffles some feathers, especially in DeFi. The data will actually live off chain because we're not super confident in our ability of cryptography and to make sure that the data is very secure, but the transactions that we're tracking will be on chain and will reward tokens to users accordingly. We're still really thinking about the tokenomics of this, but I've just called it DAPTO. We have no idea what our token will be called, but it can be used as more of a utility exchange token, similar to Uniswap's token or BNB for the companies to pay in acquiring or borrowing this user data, or these companies can use DAPTO to pay the user or use their own tokens. This is something that we're trying to figure out right now. Long-term vision is just building towards truly user-owned, where they understand their own data, can store their own data and transport it across different dApps or even Web 2 applications as they please. So our next step is probably a dashboard for users, and then moving on towards thinking about how can we actually make data portable using user wallets. Quick note about our team, very fortunate to have started this over the last 2 weeks. We already have several advisors, but I have a background launching several ventures and building a lot of communities. My background comes from Wish, which is an e-commerce platform where we really used user data to better the experience for users and to customize their shopping experience. That's why I fully believe that data can be used to provide a better experience for all users across the web. Chris is is our co-founder. He has a Master of Finance and MBA from IE and has invested in a lot of Web3 platforms and his time in Dubai at Global Ventures. And then Owen has worked at Twitter and App Dynamics, so perfect for the data aspect, but also worked at Sembo, which is a blockchain startup based in Australia, as a Google engineer. Really what we're asking for right now is we're always looking to talk to more dApps across all different types of categories on testing our hypothesis of will they switch over, do they care about rewarding their users, and what kind of data do they hope to collect, and basically their needs. We're also looking to talk to users to understand what their thoughts of privacy are. We've already talked to people in DeFi and gaming, but can always talk to more. So if you're open for a short interview, I would love that. And then we're also, again, thinking about tokenomics regulations. And eventually we have to form a future DAO because we're holding tokens that control data privacy of users, which should be community owned. So with that, I hope that was probably like 4 minutes, but opening the floor to feedback and questions.
My first reaction, so thank you very much for sharing this, and also like, engaging the community at very early stage. This is quite courageous. Most founders are like, so I'm so scared of getting feedback and presenting. My first reaction is, please join the session with Karen Schaller, who is like a scientist also and works with Blockdaemon. He has a session in room 2, actually in this room in a little bit. So I think that also might help to connect the nodes and get you like also very good feedback from someone in the ecosystem. I think anybody in the community, do you have immediate questions regarding this?
I see.
If not,
Watson
we will invite
has...
Oscar, but Ivy and team will be here.
Yeah,
sorry.
I'll type into chat. I'll answer questions in chat, but yeah, Oscar should go.
Exactly. So let's have
Hi.
Oscar, and Ivy is here. So when questions come up, then Oscar is currently calling in from Venezuela. So we have 3 minutes, so we can have a little bit of a conversation on any kind of feedback that you may have when you listen to Ivy's presentation or when you listen to Ignacio's presentation.
I wanted to answer the question that made that what happened if the trees were burned, and it's actually a question that we get a lot, because the risk is always there. These are risky assets. It's risky trees. We plan on reducing that risk with the financing of the protection. But if a fire would occur spontaneously by a ray, we think that should not be an incentive for the token to go up in value. So the token should be burned. But we want to let that decision to the community. When we already have a community form and a DAO form, I think the community should decide.
Wonderful. There's a lot of activity out there for community engagements, and blockchain technology provides a very good way to engage borderless in a decentralized way, and also in a way that captures and shares value across all the different contributors in the ecosystem. That's why we're very excited about it. And that's why we also launched Unit Masters program, so that everyone who wants to use that Web3 can enter the stream, right? To enter the stream, because I think the first thing one needs to understand is just understand how to use the different terminology. So to become blockchain literate, and then use all the tools. And right now the industry is evolving so fast that it's quite difficult to catch up with all the different innovations. And this is why we kind of took a step back and looked at the entire industry and thought about very carefully actually about what are the most important concepts that a student need to understand to be able to, after 6 weeks, kind of start moving along and building the different things. And we have mentors who help other students. It's a peer-to-peer program, so everybody can join as a student and as a mentor and learn together. And with people like Ignacio, who have been super, super helpful in guiding other people who are maybe new to the ecosystem and understanding what's actually important to know and answer any questions. So hopefully some of you were inspired by today's speaker presentations and will join us for the cohort 8 we have a lot of students here. Also Mary, for example, from Dublin. Hopefully we can see an NFT from Mary this year still. You have 2 more weeks, Mary, to launch your project. And yeah, and everybody who graduates then basically from Unit Masters has the chance also to join the 10 weeks token launchpad program, where it's really about building the token business and working out the business case that is behind the idea, so that to make sure that any token that is issued in the unit network also has a little bit of a sound business logic, which on average we don't see in the market right now. A lot of people create a lot of stuff out of nothing without having really understood what is actually the value being brought to the community and who's actually then financing this value, and how do we align incentives on a broader scale. That's why we always ask in Unit Masters, what is the revenue generation behind that token? And everybody hopefully will be apt to think critically also about any kind of token projects that they come across. So thank you all for joining us for Unit Master session.